exploring the intersection of resilient technology, organizations, and people. REdeploy.
We are so happy, both of us, to have all of you with us for this inaugural event. Of course, I am Paul Reed, and this is my conference co-chair, Mary Thengvall.
Hi, everyone.
So there are a few items, as you usually have in a conference, a few housekeeping items for us to start with this morning.
Yes. First and foremost, reminder about our code of conduct. The TLDR is up on the screen. You probably also saw the sign as you walked in and registered. But basically, we're expecting everyone to be respectful of each other. And just a quick reminder, abusive behavior will not be tolerated. If anyone does have an issue, you can find any of us that have staff ribbons on our badges. Are there any staff members in the room right now? They might all be running around. There's one. So there's a black ribbon at the bottom of their badge. Paul and I have that on ours when we have our badges on as well. So you can find any of us if you do run into any issues. We don't anticipate anything, but we hope it's going to be an awesome time for everyone. Photo policy, quick note on that. So you might have been told when you checked in that if you did not want your photo taken, to put a red dot on your badge. If you were not told that, I apologize. There was a lot going on this morning. If you do not want people taking your picture, feel free to pick up one of those red stickers at registration. If you are taking pictures, please ask first, which is a good policy with pretty much everything.
Red dot or no red dot.
Exactly, but if there is a red dot on someone's badge, please be respectful of that and be aware that they do not want their picture taken. There are also pronoun stickers out at registration if you miss those, little white stickers that you can stick on your badge to say she, her, he, him, they, them, or fill in the blank with whatever you would like people to refer to you as. Try and keep an eye out for those so we can be respectful and address people in the way that they wish to be addressed. Along those same lines, everyone is welcome here. We are encouraging diversity. We are encouraging conversations. To that end, the restrooms, which you may have found down, if you go through the lobby, down the corner, and to the right, there are signs near the restroom that essentially say, use the restroom that you feel is the one that you want to use or you feel is the best for you. So please be respectful of that as well and aware of those signs. Like I said, we are having an emphasis on diversity and emphasis on inclusion and emphasis on learning together as a community to explore conversations around resilience. However, we also recognize not everyone wants to be in conversations 24/7. So we do have what we're calling a quiet room. If you are an introvert and you need to escape for a few minutes, you can use that. If you are on call, and I am so sorry if you are.
Is anyone on call? Yeah, I see a few.
A handful?
Yeah.
Like one of our speakers, that could be problematic. But if
We're
you're
gonna
on call or if you just need a few minutes to escape, there is a quiet room. There's a big sign. It's to the opposite side of the lobby from registration. Wi-Fi information. REdeploy 28.
Sorry, yeah.
That is not
typo there. So you probably found it. It's REdeploy conf, and the password is REdeploy conf with an 18 at the end of it.
Yes.
And we'll show that.
We'll fix that for later. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Q&A, presentation Q&A. We are trying something new.
Mary, I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
How do we do questions and answers at REdeploy conf?
That's a very good question. So we are actually not doing Q&A during the talks today. We are encouraging the speakers to take their full 40 minutes. We are doing something different where at the end of each day, we're going to have a panel with the 7 speakers who have spoken throughout the day. And you'll have an opportunity to do Q&A with the speakers at that point. So we'd encourage you to keep track of your questions and observe how the different talks relate to each other. And then think about things that you might be interested in learning from multiple perspectives at the end of the day. So on that note, and speaking of questions, Paul, can you help us with why we are calling this REdeploy?
Yes. What does RE stand for? Well, it stands for resilience engineering.
What is resilience engineering?
So resilience engineering has a history in the safety sciences, And it came up around issues that researchers were looking into about 30 years ago when they were thinking about, like, what does it mean to be safe? And back then, we usually thought more safety means more barriers, right? So more concrete between us and that nuclear reactor. Or let's have a disaster recovery site if we're running operations, or 2 or 3. That'll make us safer. Who has had to staff the DR site for the company they worked at some point in their career? Right. And a lot of times when things would shift to that DR site, was that smooth and happy and fun? Maybe not as much. Yeah, I see some heads going, no. So there were a number of events that happened, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Challenger, that taught us that more barriers may not be the way to go. Also, at the same time, they were starting to look at, it's not just about how you build these systems. It's not just how you pour the concrete or how you link 2 data centers together. There's something else there that people are doing, that systems are doing, that isn't captured by this idea of, if we want to be safer, we should just build it into the system. We should engineer it into our schematic or into our code. Something was really missing. So a lot of times when we talk about resilience in technology, we talk about our code. We talk about our infrastructure, our resilience there. We talk a lot about potentially chaos engineering. Do we have any chaos engineering community folks here? There's a lot. Yeah, I see some hands going up. Cool. And we're really happy to have you join us for these conversations because there's a huge amount of overlap between these areas. But oftentimes we talk about it really in a code context. But of course, code is written by people. And as most of us know, code is often now operated by people. So there's these teams and these organizational systems that are responsible for producing this code. And of course, teams are made up of
people. Imagine that. So people is something that I am incredibly passionate about. For those of you who don't know me, I've been working with developer communities for over 10 years now in a variety of places throughout the industry. And I've noticed a lot of patterns around people, around how people respond to things, around the ways that things impact people, around how things like DevOps, like chaos engineering, like Agile are impacting both the people and the organizations that they work at. So this is a conversation that Paul and I have been having probably the last 18 months. Just around, are people actually paying attention to how their technology decisions are impacting the companies and are impacting the people? Something else that I speak often about, in addition to developer relations and communities, is burnout. And I'm seeing those numbers skyrocket over the last few years as well. And so we're interested in having a holistic viewpoint of this problem and looking at this really from a full picture of not just what are the decisions we're making around our technology, but how are those decisions, before we make them, going to impact our organizations and the people who are responsible for running that technology?
So one of the really interesting things, a quotation from one of our speakers, he likes to talk about the path that other industries have taken. So if you look at healthcare and aviation, they have been having these conversations about resilience for a number of years. They are ahead of us in those discussions. And here's the problem. They have found that if there have been some outcomes that haven't been great, people have gone to jail when it's not really clear that that really made any of us safer or made the system better. And that can start, that we are at that precipice when we're dealing with technology like self-driving cars or systems that interact with other systems in ways that we may not know. It's interesting, everybody talks about cat gifs on the internet. There's an interesting aspect of, like, when you're doing incident response, if it can't reach the cat gift server, does that cause things to stall because people are trying to load stuff while they're doing incident response? And that's not a hypothetical. That actually happened to a client I was working with. So the point is, we're building these complex systems, and if we aren't having those conversations, someone else will. Lawyers, politicians, regulators will have those conversations, and we might not like the answers that they come up with. So we are really happy that you're with us to facilitate these conversations so that we can be a part of them before they are had without any of our input. Also, by the way, that's why the conference swag are notebooks, because we want you to fill up with a lot of notes as you're talking with each other and spending this time with us.
And let's be clear about one thing. We are here to co-create the space to have these conversations, not just for speakers to be on stage, not just for us to be on stage, but for you, the audience members, for the speakers, for us to all be having conversations together. Because we recognize that there's a lot of different routes to get to a resilient place, and it's not going to be, here's the way that we do it and here's the way that everyone should do it, because you all work for different companies, you all come from different backgrounds, but there are some patterns and there are questions to ask and there are directions to head in, and we want to be exploring those and discovering those together.
So one quick question, I'm really curious about this. Who here is from the Bay Area? Raise your hands. All right, and who do we have from California joining, okay? And who do we have from the West Coast joining, all right? How about outside of the West Coast, rest of the US? Oh, a lot of people. And then how about outside of the US? Okay,
awesome.
We need to give some applause
Yeah.
for people that were on multi-hour-long flights for the event. Thank you for joining us. This is awesome. All right, so last thing to talk about.
Really important, awesome thing to talk about. So obviously this event wouldn't be possible without you all, without us. It also wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. So I'd like everyone to give a huge round of applause to our sponsors.
The food, the coffee, the thing that lets us know who you all are.
Exactly, exactly. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, please feel free to visit their booths in the lobby. They'll be set up during all of the breaks, during the lunches, or towards the end of lunch as well. They'll also be in here with all of us, engaging in the conversations and taking part in that. Speaking of things that they make possible, one of those things is captioning. Maggie is our amazing captionist, and we are so glad that she is here today. Please take advantage of the fact that those things are on the screen for tweeting and all of those types of things, which I think I skipped over earlier, which is my mistake. If you are tweeting, I'm backing up a little bit, REdeployConf is the Twitter handle. REdeployConf is also the hashtag. So please include those so we can take part in that conversation as well. But again, special shout out to Maggie and White Coat Captioning for being here with us today.
Okay. All right, we are almost done, I promise. I'm not even going to say much about this. There's an evening event. We hope you can all join us. We will talk about it after lunch. There will be more details about that. I think it's time to get, one last thing. We have to give a shout out to the program committee who did a lot of work. I want to point out we had a 12-to-1 ratio of CFPs to slots we had available. So there was a lot of interest. The CFP did a lot, the program committee did a lot of work to sift through all of that and bring their intention and intentionality and thoughtfulness to that process. So let's give them a quick round of applause. They have created an agenda that is amazing, and we are going to get into that agenda now. So our first speaker, you probably know him from VelocityConf and his talk that gets referred to all the time, 10 deploys per day. He's also done deep research into the heuristics that engineers use, operations engineers use when they are working incidents. So join me in welcoming our first speaker, John Ospa of Adaptive Capacity Labs.